lastly, we're gonna focus in on flexibility. Now here are just a couple exercises to lengthen the trunk and the lower body. So one's Mermaid. So I'm sitting in a position that requires a lot of flexibility at the hips. So if this doesn't work for you, one option is leg out straight. The other option are both legs out straight and or just feet on the floor. The key here is the trunk. So one hand goes onto the toe bar, you press the glide board up the rail, sliding the shoulder blade down like we did in the side kneeling, sweep the arm overhead, come back in, hand comes down, sweep the arm overhead. Now moving into this position a little bit more, you can just stay with the glide board closed. That's gonna really intensify the stretch, but keeping the shoulder blade down, reaching over, is also more of a strengthening and a little bit of a stretch as well. So again, this is more the torso. As you come over to get more of the trunk and the rib cage, you can even add a oppositional rotation. What does that mean? As I'm reaching toward the tower, I'm gonna rotate toward the arm I'm reaching overhead, meaning that I'm gonna rotate toward the armpit of the arm which is reaching overhead. So I'm gonna reach overhead and rotate toward the tower. That requires a lot of flexibility. So from there, we're gonna move into the lower body. So I'm gonna take off the base. So one thing is the hip flexor. So I'm gonna bring my incline up, midway up my tower. And the focus here is actually on keeping the board closed. So I'm gonna use the board as more of a step. Now, I know it feels good to really lunge into a stretch, and we all do it. The challenge is that sometimes when we lunge into the stretch, we can hyperextend our back, meaning we're leaning too far on our back, and we're overstretching a capsule, meaning what the joint sits in is a capsule that protects it, and we're not actually lengthening muscles. So I want you to try something different. Have your body in a slight lunge position, and think about lifting the ribs off the hips, and then ever so slightly bending toward the tower. Feel the length in the front of the hip and the thigh, versus just kind of really lunging into it, and where you get more of that joint capsule. So it's a very subtle movement, but it's actually more of a lengthening into the actual muscle. And you want to think about that postural alignment, ribs over hips, no overarching of the back, and you're still keeping everything engaged, meaning the core, the pelvic floor, the belly, and the shoulders sliding down. That's more the front of the body. Again, do both sides. And lastly, my favorite are the leg weights. So that is why I have my shoes off. If you're able to put your feet in through the pulleys, into the straps with your shoes on, that's fine. But typically they're done with shoes off. I'm going to slide my foot into the strap of the harness. And the key here is I'm going to think about my spine being neutral. So immediately, sometimes people start and their hips are up. So I'm going to anchor my tailbone down. If I need to put the heel of my hands on my hip bones, index fingers towards my pubic bone, like I talked earlier, finding that neutral position, rocking that back and forth, and finding where my hips lie when playing, meaning my fingertips and my thumbs are all in a straight line. Now my back is really arched. I'm going to soften down through my ribs and slide my shoulders away from my ears. This is my start position. One leg drops down, one leg drops towards me. And this may be where you stay. The glide board might stay still. That is one option. Another option is you really allow the board to move with each switch movement of the leg, each kind of scissor we call it. So you want to hold anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds. Now from here, you can go into adductors, meaning an inner thigh stretch, with your legs out long, or to get a little bit deeper, flex the feet and the knees, meaning bend feet and knees. Try to keep that 90 position, get a little bit deeper into the inner thighs. And lastly, this is where I see a lot of discrepancies in postures. Cross one foot under the pulley into a figure four and then bend the other knee. Now typically I see a lot of the hip coming up toward the rib cage. Take your fingertips, place them on your hips, thumbs on your ribs, and imagine you have toothpicks there. Keep that separation and then allow the glide board to move down the rails and the knee towards you. If you feel this happening, you may have gone too far. You might push into the leg that is not crossed. That's actually, you can straighten or bend. So in this case, my left leg. So that's a figure 4 outer hip stretch. Making sure that you are keeping engaged, keeping your hip and spine aligned. To come out, you grab a hold of the pulleys, you slide one foot out. I always say reach for home base, meaning that you're not letting that leg fly around in the air. Let go of the pulleys, roll up, and that's just a little bit of things that you can do to help your posture from the core, from strengthening, and then a little bit of flexibility.